Boker Tov, everyone. Uh, I am, as most of you should know by now, on sabbatical. 3 months over the summer, I'm going to be gone, do some research, work on some projects, improve my rabbinic, refresh my rabbinic perspectives, and come back hopefully in the fall with invigorated to do new things. So, as a result, there's going to be no taste of Torah during this time. However, I thought I might try and just do little tiny tidbits. I'm going to call them a cup of Kabbalah, a little discussion about Jewish mystical and esoteric traditions, and help you understand this much talked about, not very well understood aspect of the Jewish experience. It's complicated, and I'm going to try and give it to you in tiny doses. It's going to be conceptual. I don't know that I can demonstrate or do more than illustrate for you what it is we're talking about, but I'm going to try and do it. I'm thinking I'll do 10 tiny little units and make them all easily imbibed, as it were, since it's Cup of Kabbalah. And we'll see where it leads us. So we're going to begin with the idea of Kabbalah itself and all the complexities that term entails. So Kabbalah comes from the Hebrew root or verb, really, kabal, which means to receive. So it has the sense as a noun in the term of transmitted or tradition, transmission, something like that. And up until the 12th or 13th century of the Common Era, the term Kabbalah would be used just to refer to any and all aspects of Jewish inherited tradition. The term was not unknown before the medieval period, but its meaning changed radically over time. So let's begin with the word Kabbalah and the word that we most often use interchangeably with it, which is mysticism. And therein lies part of the challenge. When you're trying to define mysticism in the Western tradition, it is complicated. We like to think we know what we're talking about, but defining it is really kind of hard. So let's talk about the elusiveness of this concept. Mysticism is a particular kind of religiosity, spirituality, world point of view, which Abraham Joshua Heschel describes as experiencing the whole wheat of the spirit before it is ground by the millstones of reason, which is just a fabulous summary. But even that's probably not inadequate. So there are those who would argue in Western academia that the very term mysticism is a made-up idea for a made-up aspect of human phenomenology. There's really nothing to distinguish mysticism from religion or spirituality or mental discipline practices that exist across cultures. So in that sense, there's a whole school that argues that mysticism doesn't really exist. It's just one aspect of religion if you consider religion to be the primary source of human intense experiences, or that it's some kind of practice or way of engaging in things that alters your consciousness or elevates your consciousness, et cetera, in which case it doesn't have to be religion. So already you can see we're down in the weeds and trying to figure out what we're talking about. So there are a couple of different definitions that have been offered for mysticism for those who believe it exists as a distinct thing. So the first is the idea that it is, as Evelyn Underhill defines it, the quest for union with the absolute. Whether you call that absolute God, or you call it nirvana, or you call it mana, or you use any of the religious or quasi-religious terms that have developed, it is this idea that there is a ultimate transcendent reality beyond our reality, and you want to engage with that, not merely encounter it, not merely experience it, but to merge with it. And this is probably the most popular and but also the most limiting definition of what the mystical is. Related to that is the idea of pursuing a transcendent object of desire with a totality of purpose, in which case it becomes, mysticism becomes a kind of discipline, or even further than that, a way of life, a particular way of living and moving through the world. But in each case, what you're pursuing is something beyond the ordinary. You want to live in exceptional time and exceptional space, and therefore you engage in exceptional, sometimes severe, sometimes brutal self-discipline practices in order to induce that sense, or to feel that sense that you are connected to the ultimate thing of your desire. So that's a second definition. A third definition, also running in a sort of related arc with everything else, is that it's a kind of erotic spiritual experience, or if we're talking specifically religion, we're talking about erotic theology. And what I'm saying here is that what we look for is a level of spiritual experience that parallels, that drives us in the way that our life drive, our sexual drive, our erotic impulses drive us. And so we hope for an experience that's every bit as intense and powerful and merging as a sexual experience. And you can see the rhetoric of erotic theology in a variety of religious settings. For ones that are closest to us, I think, for example, of St. John of the Cross, the Christian mystic who compares Jesus to a lover that he encounters in a field of lilies on a late night, and he lays his head upon Jesus's breast, and they merge into one. That's erotic theology. In Jewish tradition, we have a similar idea. We use the Song of Songs as the basis for this idea, in which God is the masculine, sexy dude, and we, the people Israel, are the lusty babe. And the imagery of Song of Songs becomes the quest of God to come together with humanity, and humanity to come together with God, and that it's just an incredibly intense love affair. So that's another definition of mysticism. And then there is more intellectual interpretations. So, for example, mysticism is the kind of knowledge you can acquire that takes you beyond the evidentiary, beyond the that which may be collected by study alone. It's the combination of intense study and intuition. Um, uh, One of the interesting words that's been coined over time is theosophy, right? Philosophy combined with a quest for theos, for God. So it's kind of intellectualism plus. That's another definition. And finally, it is sometimes, mysticism is sometimes used to refer to the occult or the esoteric. Uh, Occult and esoteric are very similar words. Occult means hidden, and esoteric means something uncommon, something not known to most people. So, esoteric knowledge would be in our modern context, for example, we understand atomic theory. We understand the basic motion of the planets. Well, so we're in the area of physics. We are sufficiently educated that we have a sort of shared discourse about very, very small things and very, very large things. However, if you really, really want to understand really, really large things, celestial mechanics, it's an incredibly complex field of study that involves mathematics and counterintuitive understanding of the behavior of mass in a void and things like that. Most of us don't know that. There's only a few select people who really understand celestial mechanics, and that makes the subject, by definition, esoteric. By the same token, we are aware of atomic theory at the very, very smallest level. We may even have some familiarity with quantum mechanics. But when we plunge into the issues of probability and possibility and all the different things that have been proposed, Schrodinger's cat, which we use as a joke, but we don't really understand it, that's esoteric too. So whether we're talking about the weirdness of the quantum world, or we're talking about string theory on the cosmic level, these are things that most of us don't understand, and we would have to put a great deal of discipline into understanding. That is esoteric, and that is esotericism. Now, the word occult has taken on kind of a negative connotation in Western thought because it's hidden. It's usually associated with the malevolent or something disreputable. Okay, so, but many people want occult knowledge. They want the secrets, the things that aren't available to us ordinarily beyond the surface. We live in an age that is driven by an awful lot of conspiracy theories. And those conspiracy theories, whether they be political or economic or whatever, those are also forms of occult knowledge. All right. So, what's going on with Kabbalah? Well, the fact of the matter is, Kabbalah is a slightly misused term for all kinds of Jewish esotericism, erotic theology, quest for the mystical experience, occult traditions. All of these things get lumped under the rubric of Kabbalah, even though they aren't all exactly that. The technical definition of Kabbalah is a particular kind of literature and worldview that emerged among a very select group of Jewish scholars starting in the 12th and 13th century in Europe, mostly in Spain and in areas around Spain, like Provence in southern France. and then develops into a series of doctrines and ideas and teachings and books and things like that that extend probably into the 15th and 16th century. The fact of the matter is that long before the 12th century, there were esoteric Jewish traditions that are not Kabbalah, and that by the time we get to the 15th and 16th century, while later Jewish mystical ideas absorb aspects of the Kabbalah, we are no longer dealing with classical Kabbalistic worldview, but within the non-academic world, we call it all, we lump it all into the term Kabbalah. All right. And so we're going to be talking about all of that. But what I'm going to concentrate on mostly is this idea that the world does not reveal itself, that the obvious things are in fact misleading about the world we observe, and that there are deeper, truer, more important things going on beyond the superficial, the trivial, and the obvious. And that if we understand that, that may grant us any number of things. It may grant us a particular kind of wisdom that allows us to move better through the world. It may grant us a certain amount of power that allows us to interact with the world in a way that is either more productive or more advantageous. And it's a system of how to frame the world. Of course, I published a book which incorporates all three of these ideas. I published the Encyclopedia of Jewish Myth, How to Frame the World, Magic, How to Influence the World, and Mysticism, How to Experience the World. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to take you through some of the fundamental characteristics and themes of traditional Kabbalah. And I'm going to ignore a lot of stuff in order to be able to do this in 10 sessions. But this is the first session. I hope you are prepared for a journey. The goal is to, if not personally experience this, at least understand what those who have experienced it are pursuing, why they pursue it, and what it is they hope to achieve. Well, thank you for this first session, and I look forward to talking with you again very shortly.